So, welcome to another episode of Soundtrack of Our Lives. I'm here this morning with Sue Williams, and you are an author and poet.
Yeah.
I think is about right to say, isn't it? I don't know if there's anything else in the mix there, but they're your main...
Author and poet, and I also co-run an online membership for non-fiction authors to help them publish, promote and profit from their non-fiction book.
Cool. So if we dig into that a little bit, so you're an author yourself, and we were talking about this just before we started recording. You do mostly collaborative autobiographical stories. Have I said that right?
Yeah. Basically true stories.
True stories.
Let's call it true stories. So I bring together groups of women who have kind of, I was going to say interesting stories to tell. We all have interesting stories to tell.
Yeah.
It's really an opportunity for women to share an episode, if you like, from their life, something that they feel that other women will benefit from.
Yeah.
So I did 3 which were on the topic of self-belief, and in those the women would share a true life story, and then they would give hints and tips and exercises as to what had worked for them in their lives to help them gain, more self-belief.
So it's not just sort of a story, it's actually almost like a self-help kind of thing as well. So it's just other women can read it and go, oh, I've been in the same boat, or I did that and I don't know what to do, and they've got some kind of guidance or direction.
Yeah. I think that what you just said about women being in the same boat, I think when we're in certain situations in our life, particularly if it's, facing some kind of adversity or difficulty, the tendency can be to feel that you're alone, you can feel overwhelmed, and like there's nobody who kind of understands where you're at, if you like. Yeah. And so this is kind of really helpful in terms of, you can pick it up and you can find somebody who's been through something similar. Yeah. Like I know the introduction to one of the books was a lady, the foreword, if you like, to the book, was a lady who had an illness. And she said, finding these kind of books was really helpful to her because she found other people who'd been through what she'd been through, and they'd obviously gone through the process of trying to find a cure and what would work in making them better. Yeah. So there's all sorts of reasons why people might read them.
Invaluable, isn't it, really? And I think it's that thing, isn't it, that there's very few times in life that you'll be the first person or the only person to experience something. So it's just but if people don't write about it and share their stories, then you'll never know. So it's very important, obviously.
I think so, yeah. And it is like, because they're short stories as well, they're about 2,000 words. Yeah. It's also like a first step almost for women who haven't perhaps written something for public consumption before. Yeah. So it's a great way of giving them confidence and finding their voice. It's
not too daunting, is it, by the sound of it? So, 2,000 words, I don't know quite, it doesn't sound too much in the scheme of books. So it's something that everyone would be capable of doing.
Yeah.
And it's not this onerous task of like, oh, I've got to try and write a book and everything. And obviously you've got the experience in that area, and you help them almost kind of get the book out of them, if that makes sense. I'd assume, yeah.
Well, get a chapter out of them,
not the book, get a chapter from them.
And as you say, some of them go on to write a book of their own. Some of them, it's like they've got the confidence. They think, I've got something to share. Yeah. They've seen what it's like to be in a book. They can hold it in their hand. Yeah. They've had a book launch. They've been through. I think one of the great things with it, you go through the whole process of, writing, seeing how it develops, the editing, kind of it coming together as a book. Yeah. Having the book launch, doing the promotion, trying to, we've achieved #1 Amazon bestseller with them. Yeah. Which it's a mixture of kind of validation, I think, and fun, enjoyment, celebration. Absolutely. And one of the things I think, women, I don't know, but I'm not speaking for men, but certainly women, I think one of the things they don't do enough is celebrate kind of like their successes. So it's a great way to do that. And then feeling, I've already done kind of one book. Yeah. Some of them go on and
go and actually write their own full book. Yeah. Yeah, which is a great stepping stone.
It is.
So obviously, as with all the episodes here, we'll put the description. Sorry, we'll put your details in the description below the video. Okay. So that'll have links to where people can find out about your author group, a page to your book or books on whatever.
Uh-huh.
Also a link maybe to your poetry, because you talk
Yeah.
do poetry.
That's right. I've written a poetry book as well.
Yeah.
So in fact, it was a poem that started me off on the on the book journey.
Kicked you off on this path, yeah?
Yeah. It was a poem I wrote 12 years ago now. 12 years ago, yeah, called Believe, which in itself is kind of asking women, inviting women, if you like, to stand up, be bold, be strong.
Yeah.
And it's talking about how we can often feel overwhelmed and down in life. But it's all about, facing up to that and recognising our value again.
Yeah.
And so that poem kind of started the whole thing off.
Kicked it all off. Mm. And what were you doing before? We'll probably talk about as we go through the songs that you've chosen.
I was actually working for the civil service,
Yeah.
so I was in the field of adult careers information, advice and guidance.
Yeah.
So, but not well. I was a careers advisor for a few years, but then I moved to behind the scenes. So I was sort of coordinate.
Yeah.
I'm losing my words now.
Because you've got too many in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. I was coordinating careers guidance networks and managing contracts and funding to support adult careers guidance. So it was bit of a shift, basically.
Yeah, bit of a change.
Definitely. Yeah.
And are there, before we move into your first song choice of the day then, so is there anywhere or is there a location that you're based out of at all? I know it doesn't make sense when you think authors, but I'm wondering if you do like poetry readings or things like that. Do you have anywhere you tend to go for that?
I must admit, I'm not one of the ones who've done much in the way of live poetry. So it's more, I've kind of got, there's poems scattered throughout the books, if you like. So I've got a book of my own which is called I Am Unique, which is all my poetry. Yeah. And then in the collaborative books, my poetry kind of filters through in there as well. Yeah.
All right, so we'll pop all that in the description, and everyone can get in touch with you if that's something that they'd love to look into. All you ladies out there, if you think, right, I'd love to get something out in writing and penned, this is the lady. This is who you need to contact, isn't it? Yeah. We'll put all that in there. But for now then, we're going to jump onto your first song choice of the day. And this is Matt Monro and Born Free. From the film, of course, Born Free. So what made you choose this particular track?
It was interesting because with looking at the song choices, I didn't really expect it to do this, but it kind of took me right back to when I was young. And I don't know exactly how old I was when this film came out, but I was probably only about 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah.
And it really had an effect on me. I think the film itself is quite a sort of sentimental, if you like, subject. Rescuing a lion cub and all that kind of thing. And I used to find the theme tune really sort of, I got really emotional with the theme tune.
It invokes these feelings, I suppose. But like you say, it is an emotional film. I haven't seen it for many, many years. So what was your childhood like then? So, where were you living? Obviously, we're in Coventry where we're recording this, and you're based in Warwickshire. Have you always been in Warwickshire? Or
no, well, not too far away. I grew up in Leicester. So this would have been, I think this was my second home, if you like, because we moved when I was 6 years old, and that was still in Leicester. And so I was living there. I've got 2 brothers, so there were 5 of us in the family. And my parents, interesting, I was thinking back about this too, because my parents did have music in the home. Yeah. But it was fairly limited. So, like, for example, they wouldn't listen to, say, pop music.
Right.
Or anything like that on the radio. So I always remember, it must have been, I think it was 1968 that the Archies were number 1. And I remember my parents switched channels on the TV, and there was a cartoon of sweets floating by. I don't know whether you ever saw the thing on top of the pops for the Archies, because it was an instrumental, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
And I was like, we were like, kind of, what's this? It was Sugar.
Yeah.
It was kind of, what's this? Didn't know anything about Top of the Pops.
Never been on before.
No, never been on before. No, and I didn't really discover pop music till I was about 11 or 12, really.
So yeah, until like you say then, so it wasn't particularly a musical household as such.
Only a certain type of music, yeah. As I
so
say.
what sort of music was it? Maybe classical that they used to listen to, jazz or something like that, like a certain genre.
What's it called? Is it Tijuana Sound of Brass? They had that. I don't know whether that's how you pronounce it. They certainly had that.
Yeah.
And a few classical ones, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting then. So it wasn't really until I suppose you get to secondary school age that you start discovering music, because you maybe expose a lot more to it when you're meeting.
It was partly because my neighbour used to give me and my dad a lift, because I went to, grammar school, which was 3 miles away.
Yeah.
And the daughter who lived next door, her father gave her a lift to work. He started giving me a lift to work, and they used to have the radio on pop music in the car.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is really good.
This is all new. Yeah, I like a bit of this.
Yeah. So that's really. So I was about 11 really.
And this takes us on a little bit maybe to your second choice of song, which is T-Rex Metal Guru. And I've made a little note on it. I always put some notes here and I listen to people's songs before you come on. And I thought, I don't know this song.
You don't know
But
it?
when I played the songs, I'm like, oh, of course I know this song.
Oh, okay.
But I never realised that it was called Metal Guru. And when you listen to it properly, I'm like, oh, that's what he's saying. But at first I thought, I've not heard of this T-Rex track, but obviously I have.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it's this, it's a brilliant song, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And this was something from your early teens.
That's right, yeah. Because I kind of went a bit the other way in terms of not having known about pop music to being really into the charts and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I actually won the top 10. I didn't even understand how the top 10 worked. Some people will probably remember there was a lolly called Kinky, and there was a competition on the Rapper to fill in the last line of a limerick, and I think I can probably remember it now, because you got a discotheque opened in Spain in a cellar with no proper drain. Things started to jump when the frogs hit the dump, and then you had to fill in the last line.
Right.
And I remember being in the kitchen with my mum saying, oh, what could we do? What could I do for this? And my mum said, well, refrain rhymes with drain.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, and the Beatles took up so we did this last line, and the Beatles took up the refrain and won the top 10. And a bit like you're saying about knowing songs, it was kind of like, well, I was like, well, which is the best? Is number 1 the best, or is number 10 the best?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Wasn't sure how this chart malarkey
Didn't know how it worked. But that's how I kind of got friendly with a lad who lived over the road.
Yeah.
My best mate Kev, because he was into pop music, and he was like, number 1's the best, of course it is. You know what I mean? And it's My Sweet Lord by George Harrison. That was one of the ones that I won. And so we kind of got friendly over that, and we ended up doing this kind of pretending to be DJs and doing a radio show together. And we used to do our own charts, make up our own charts. And we thought we were really kind of clever as well, because not only did we do the A-sides, we did a B-side chart,
that makes. I was going to ask, but from your notes there, that you'd made your own flip side chart. I thought, well, what's this flip side chart? I'm intrigued by, but it's the B-sides on the vinyl that. Okay.
So we used to listen to both sides, obviously, and we used sometimes, you used to think, oh, there's a really good B-side there. I think Life's a Gas, I may be wrong, but I think Life's a Gas by T-Rex was a B-side.
Yeah.
And things like that. So we were like, oh, we should give the B-sides more.
Yeah, some of these B-side tracks are just as good, aren't they, actually, sometimes?
Yeah.
But you actually literally got 10 pieces of vinyl sent to you. For the charts. That's pretty cool prize, isn't it, as a kid?
Yeah. And I say it didn't mean all that much to me because I didn't really understand how it all worked at that point. I mean, my aunt said I can't remember. Perry Como, one of the records I run was Perry Como, and she was like, "Oh, I love Perry Como." So I said, "All right, you can have it." You know?
Yeah, just give that one away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool prize. And did you ever do anything? So you got yourself doing pretend DJs and things. So did you got a record player and stuff, or is that from something you had in your house that you had to take out?
Yeah, I think we had my parents had a really old record player that I used to use in those days.
Was it because obviously you have the 45s and the 33s, didn't you? But was it there was a 78?
78s as well. Yeah, I think it used to.
I don't remember.
I think it used to play 78s.
Yeah, I don't remember what the records were that were 78s, but I do remember seeing that as an option. I'll have to look that up actually. That's it. Just reminded me that was a choice.
My parents had one of those old gramophones in a box that used to play 78. They had a collection of a few 78s.
Were they different size records then?
They were sort of LP size, I think, weren't they?
So almost a 12
about that size. Yeah. I feel like I'm going fishing now.
Look what you've got.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, we're on to your third selection, and a band that obviously I think everybody in the world must know. It's of course Abba. This was a song of theirs actually I hadn't heard. Admittedly, Eagle. So it's one of their less well-known ones, I would say.
Yeah.
And what made you pick this one from the Swedish legends?
Because when I went to college, the album. It's difficult to say this because their album called The Album came out, and I bought it, and Eagle was a track on their album, and I was in my first year at college, and I'd got this little record player that a friend of my brother's was selling it, and I kind of paid £1 a week to get this record player.
Right on the knock, as they say, on tap, yeah.
On tap.
How many weeks do you have to pay for?
I think it was 20 weeks, because it cost me 20 quid, I think.
He's done well out of that, hasn't he?
Yeah. So I took it. It was quite small, so I took it to college, and I had a small selection of albums, this being one of them, that I used to play, and I used to play this one on repeat when I bought it. I didn't know this actually. I looked this up because I was coming here. Yeah. Apparently, the Eagle is their longest track they ever did.
Oh, is it?
It's nearly 6 minutes long.
Yeah, so they're quite short tracks, songs, aren't they?
Yeah. So I was really quite amazed by that, and I thought to myself, that's probably why I went off it eventually, because I played it over and over again. And not only did I play it over and over again, it was nearly 6 minutes long.
It's a long song to be repeating, isn't it? And
it
like
is.
You say, sometimes you do get to a point again, you know what? I don't want to listen to this anymore, and for quite a while as well. You think, I think that'll do for now.
Yeah,
because I've had it for years.
But it's quite atmospheric. I think the song's quite atmospheric. There's kind of like a bit of a sound, a bit like an eagle's call.
Yeah.
And you get a sense of kind of, I think, mystery and.
Yeah, it's an interesting song. And with all the episodes, well, as well as obviously your details, I always put a link to each of the songs in the description, so when everyone's finished watching the episode, go and have a listen to these songs if you've not heard them, like I had. I love that because it kind of opens up new avenues and new songs from artists that you like and things like that. So yeah, go and have a listen. But it's a pretty cool song, but it's not the usual kind of 2-minute fare that you get from Abba.
No, that's right. I was very cool actually at this stage because because it's amazing thinking about it today, but not many people at college actually had a record player.
No.
Or anything. So when I was, putting these songs on repeat, people were going, "Oh, I quite like," because I had things like Cat Stevens and the Eagles and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, you got extra cool points. And what were you doing at college then, or where had you gone to, and what were you studying?
It was a teacher training college, so I was doing a B.Ed degree. But it was quite an unusual one because they called it a 2+1, which meant rather than kind of doing teaching spread out throughout the degree, the first 2 years were mainly, I felt it was a bit like doing A-levels again, to be honest.
Right.
So they were mainly sort of subject areas with a little bit of teaching practice thrown in.
And then the
third year was all in schools. So
you actually go into schools and obviously learn the teaching in a classroom side of things. I suppose that makes sense.
Did sort of extended periods of teaching practice, in school. So.
And then you take it did you go into teaching or no? Because that often happens, isn't it? You do a degree and you just segue off somewhere completely different.
Yeah, I must admit I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I was at 18.
Yeah.
And I went to see the careers advisor several times, and I think in desperation, they were kind of like, why don't you do teaching?
Just to get you into something.
Yeah.
Just go down some path.
That's right.
And I'm wondering, I'm going to ask you, was it the going into the classroom part in the third year degree that put you off teaching? Because I know that might have an impact when you realise the reality of what's involved. You think, actually, this isn't for me.
Yeah. It wasn't really for me. I had great difficulty, I must admit, controlling a class.
Yeah.
And I used to try like these little techniques. I used to have discussions with my tutor about it and things like this. And so he used to give me little tips. And I always remember one occasion where he'd said, just stand at the front of the class, just stand there and wait and it'll go quiet. So that's what I did. I stood at the front of the class and like he said, and I was just like thinking, because it went really quiet, and I was just thinking, it works. When someone went, quiet, isn't it? And they all burst out laughing.
It unravelled very quickly.
Yeah. There was another one I remember where, because I was on teaching practice in the head teacher's class in a small primary school, and or middle schooler. It was a middle school, and he said, I've got to go to a meeting. You need to take the music class, but he said it's fine. It's a radio program, and I'm not very good, actually. I'm not very good with singing or getting that side of music. So I was like, okay, it's a radio program, and it would have been fine, except the song they were doing was really difficult. I remember now, it was called Ching-a-ling Tonk Tonk.
Right.
And genuinely the kids couldn't pick it up from what they were doing on the radio. And as a teacher, it would have been the sort of thing where you had to sort of like freeze it and go, right, follow me, kids, But I couldn't sing it myself.
You were all in the same boat.
Yeah. So they ended up kind of chanting and all that. And in the end, I turned it off and we did something else.
Yeah, we'll find another subject for this lesson. Yeah, that's quite enough for that. Carry on.
Yeah. So
I don't blame you. I mean, I couldn't imagine. For me personally, teaching would be a nightmare. I just wouldn't have the patience for it. So I can imagine why you didn't get into it.
Uh-huh.
So we're up to the fourth song, then Sue, and this is a track I hadn't heard of at all actually, or an artist. You've picked Katy Powell and Dance with the Devil.
Yeah, and it wasn't one I expected to pick either. It's a really interesting process, this. It's like, because it takes you back, brings back memories and things like that, which I think, you wouldn't think. I might have been thinking, it'll be my favourite songs and things like that. But this one is one I kind of associate with my mum and going on holiday. And we went to some sort of, variety show kind of thing as a family.
Yeah.
And the guy at the front, he wanted volunteers to come up and have a go on the drums. And my mum was like, right, that's it, I'm going up.
Yeah,
and
I'm in for that, I'm in for a bit of that.
And she had a real, she was just like bashing away, she really kind of got into it. She was like bashing away on the drums and hitting the cymbal and all this kind of stuff. And with this kind of song, Dance with the Devil, well, it's not a song, it's more of an instrumental.
Yeah.
And so whenever we would hear this afterwards, it'd be like we'd be joking about my mum, how carried away she got on the drums.
I'd always think if I ended up going on the drums, I'd end up looking like, and I'm pretty sure it's Animal from the Muppets who plays the drums.
Oh right, I don't really
know.
know.
I mean, this was an 80s thing, isn't it? And he just, like, whenever you say like bashing at the drums, that's who it makes me think of, because he just didn't know what he was doing, this puppet. And he just hit the drums and cymbals, and he had all like shaggy red hair and stuff. And that's what that makes me think of. Is just
that's like exactly what it was like. It was just
chaotic
like
hilarity, like, just hitting everything, and I'm all in.
yeah, definitely.
And this was obviously on holiday, so maybe more like a holiday camp type of thing. Like
it was just a show actually. It was. I think we went to a variety show kind of thing at a local centre, and it was totally unexpected.
And have you ever gone up and done a little talent show anywhere? Is that your thing, or?
No, I don't think I have actually. I did. Talking of the poetry, I did read out. I wish I'd looked after my teeth the other week, but that's about as far as it goes.
It's as good as it gets.
It's not as good as it gets.
Yeah, I'm not really one for getting up on stage or karaoke, and that's not really my bag either.
No, can you imagine? Well, I was saying about the music and not being able to sing very well. Well, karaoke would be
a nightmare, wouldn't it? I mentioned this on someone else's episode. I've actually, and this I think still takes some beating, I've had a microphone taken off me at karaoke. Right. That's how bad I am. So I should stay well and truly off stage. I've no business being up there. Right, we're up to your last choice of the day then. And this is Katy Perry's Firework, which is, I would say, is become quite an anthemic song for ladies. So what made you pick this particular song?
Well, this is like fast forwarding loads of years now.
Yeah.
The other ones are all when I was quite young. And this one's, I was about 51, 52 I think. So this goes back to a time when I had just taken early retirement, so from the civil service.
From the civil service, yeah.
People who work for the civil service are probably quite familiar with the fact that often there's lots of, because of changing policy and government cuts and all this kind of thing, you often get lots of restructuring and changes and things like this. And I'd been through quite a few of those, and work would be very sort of, you'd get excited about something, and then it would all stop because it was like another restructuring.
A new government comes in or something like that.
Something like that.
A big change. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very up and down, stop, start. So I got the opportunity to take early retirement. So for me, that was kind of like a no-brainer.
At that point to just get out.
Yeah. So that's what I did, and it was also a bit of a difficult time as well because my dad died and then my mum died within a year of each other, and it was kind of just after I left work that my mum died, and I was kind of at that phase where I was kind of like thinking, who am I? What do I want to do with my life?
Turmoil period of life, isn't it, when that happens? So
so it was kind of all that was going on, and I started to kind of explore different things, started to go to networking and all this kind of thing, and I'd been looking for a women's network in Warwick or around Warwickshire.
Yeah.
And I came across one called Damsels in Success. I saw this like video.
Quite a catchy little title, actually.
Yeah. And it was actually a brilliant title, and people in it, would be always, when you met another woman, it was surprising. People would say, "Are you in Damsels?"
Yeah.
I'm in Damsels. It was
really cool club to be in. Yeah.
Quite a big thing at the time. And they had this. They did a kind of annual conference, an event as well, and they had this song Firework as their kind of almost like theme tune, if you like. And so it's a really kind of uplifting song as well.
Yeah.
And so I associate it with those kind of big conferences when they played it, and everyone. Very different, of course, from like a lot of what would be work scenarios, because we all kind of got up and danced at the beginning of the events and things like that.
Very high energy. I suppose it helps, doesn't it? The enthusiasm and the positivity and just helping all these ladies there, just helping each other along on their whatever journey they're on.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the bits, it's interesting because having worked in careers guidance, it was like coming out of that environment and everything at the civil service, I was kind of like quite blown away by how a lot of women were so entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
you know, and so talented, and kind of, you know, running these businesses, kind of having families and all this kind of stuff, and it was really inspirational. And again, another reason why I kind of started doing the books, because
you could see you're around that area. I mean, I'm fortunate. I've been networking for many years, and the amount of women I've met over the years who are incredibly inspirational with what they've built and what they've achieved, and just how they are as people. They're just great to be around. So absolutely, you can see that something like that would be fantastic to be around, especially, like you say, after it's a period of time where it's quite a lot of turmoil and personal grief and upset. And to be in that kind of environment must have been quite, or maybe invigorating. I don't know if that's the right word.
Invigorating is a good word. Yeah,
it is a good word. I'm not really a word person.
I'm impressed with that.
I'll take that. I'll take a compliment from an author. That's my word of the day. Invigorating.
That could be the title of your book.
I don't even have to write a pamphlet, but you know, we'll see how we go.
I don't know. I think there's a lot in this kind of music stuff. I think you could easily kind of gather together a lot of
this could maybe form something,
stories and quotes and things for a book.
Yeah. Well, there's an idea. Actually, maybe we'll have to have a further conversation. I don't know, do I have to put a wig on and call myself Nelly to get myself in the club? I don't know.
I don't know whether you want to be in the club, but
we can just have a chat, can't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well that's it. We're all wrapped up. Thank you very much for coming along this morning.
Thank you. It's been good fun, actually.
Yeah, it's been great to chat to you. And I look forward to sharing this in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know when it's going to go out.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Neil. Cheers. Bye. Thanks.